Hey folks, I'm Warren Wilson with American Cop. I'm writing a quick article here on misuse, overuse of the radio, and I got my buddy Matt Landfair here of Primary and Secondary. And rather than do a introduction for him, I'll let him do it himself. What do you say, Matt?
I can do that. I've done those before.
Once or twice.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, cop, podcaster, consultant, instructor, all kinds of stuff. My favorite thing to say at the beginning of every podcast, because it's important to frame things so people understand where you're coming from. Cop since last century, like Warren. Um, and at first, that sounded like a bit of a joke, and now the further we get away from the '90s, the more it's like, oh, wait a minute, that was a while ago. If you were working as a police officer in the '90s, you probably, if you haven't already, you should be looking at retirement. So I could, I don't want to yet. I still got years in me. Good years. But most importantly, yeah, law enforcement background. The primary and secondary thing basically was started as an idea to spread really good information to people that want it, people that need it. And don't be chasing after what's flashy and what's temporary. We're looking for long-term lessons. And one of those long-term concepts and lessons and considerations, especially on the law enforcement side, is use of radio and radio etiquette. And unfortunately, we're seeing daily, not everyone's on the same page. So that's
No,
where
we're
this
not.
conversation comes in.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because you're not just one of the guys who focuses on the flashy stuff. You look at those ancillary issues that can add up to something terribly important.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been, on the second floor of that apartment building fighting somebody by yourself while somebody was trying to go on traffic and you couldn't get on the radio, you'll know what I'm talking about. Uh, he thought going on traffic was important, which it is, but it wasn't as important as what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so could have just held back. And that's something that's always kind of stuck with me. And plus, you also are not a dispatch hater like some of these folks are.
No,
Those folks are trying to do the best job they can, and the more we're taking away from them, the more we're taking away from the public. So that engagement they have to spend on the radio, they have to spend, um, listening to you or and me, and they're not answering the phones or whatever other. I don't know about your dispatch, but ours is they have an incredible number of
full service.
responsibilities,
Yeah.
absolutely insane. So anyway, I just thought you'd be the great guy for this. And you've already kind of touched on one of those things. I want to just go over kind of some of the thoughts I had. The questioner. So the guy is on his way to the call and non-officer safety related, non-public safety related stuff. He wants to just ask all the questions. It's like, aren't you going to write a report when you get there? Aren't you going to talk to people when you get there? So do you have that guy?
Absolutely. So I work for a smaller agency, and we share a dispatch with other agencies, state agencies, sheriff's office, other police departments in my region. And pretty much everyone has some form of a computer in their car. Attached to that computer is the internets. And all of this provides up to date information. So then, with the responding officer, the primary responding officer needs to decipher that as he's or she, or as they are on their way. And ultimately, what winds up happening is, yeah, there might be some blanks that need to be filled in. There might be some specific information that the officer needs to know that maybe the dispatcher didn't ask. That isn't that common though, because if you have good dispatchers, they're asking all the important information. So from there, we have everyone else responding. As a backup officer, I'm staying off the radio as much as I can. As a matter of fact, because of that computer, I can say 17 on my way or whatever through the CAD. As a matter, if I happen to be another unit who is not responding, I can run traffic without using dispatch. Matter of fact, if I'm doing a traffic stop or something like that, and I need to run a license plate or I need to run a name or something, I have a mobile data computer that's able to run all of that for me without having to use dispatch, who probably are more concerned with the call that's occurring right now. So yeah, the person that's taking up all the radio time, that's asking all these questions, it's you're going to get the info. You have to get there, but let them ask, or let them provide the info at the pace they can provide it. And yeah, if you're on scene and you need to know directions or description, yeah, that's important, because really what the radio is for, it's a means of communication. Use it when you need it. Don't use it frivolously, because you don't know who also needs to be using it at the same time. What if there are multiple priority calls going on at the same time, which happens?
Yeah, and that's another of those deals where we're that engagement that dispatch has, you're taking away from that engagement. There's engagement is a finite resource.
Yeah,
If you take that away from them, they can't help the other officer that might need help. They're not being able to answer the phone because I don't know that our folks do everything.
yeah,
And I'm
full
sure in the bigger
service.
cities they've got dedicated dispatchers and like that, but bigger cities are pretty rare. Really when you look at cop stuff around the country, it's pretty rare that
Yeah.
big city cops are relatively rare compared to the most of us are smaller agencies. And
Oh, we outnumber them.
yeah, we outnumber them by quite a bit. So that's kind of where I'm pointing this is towards that. So yeah, try to minimize those things. That if it's officer safety, public safety, where something is, where what exact house is the domestic at, so I know not to pull in front. Obviously, those kind of things. Yeah, but otherwise, do find out when you get there. And so I think that was perfect. Um, how about the post call narrator? So how much information does the dispatcher need to know from you via radio when
Yeah,
you're done with the call?
yeah. So for me, pretty much the only time I do anything like that is if there's a possibility the person's going to call back. If the complainant's going to call back, 1014, just so you know, information, this is what occurred. They may wind up calling you back. But I'm not going to say, well, I responded and I found the dog in question and provide the entire narrative for my report. No,
We do.
no, it's not
It wasn't the same
exactly.
description of the dog, it turns out, but we
Yeah.
do have the dog in custody at this time.
I found a dog that's similar.
Yes, not the same one. I
Yeah,
did talk to somebody down the street, like, dude, nobody cares. Shut up.
exactly.
Nobody
Exactly.
cares. It doesn't
But we
matter.
have those officers that just want to hear themselves speak.
My first reaction to this is anger and annoyance, but
Yeah.
that's really not how we need to handle this. What we need to
Yeah.
really thinking about is discussing, okay, it doesn't really matter why it's happening. Maybe you do like attention. Maybe you feel like people need to know this. Maybe, you're just a talkative kind of guy like I am. Or maybe they just don't know any better. And
Yeah, it might be a cultural thing,
yeah,
a behavioral thing, but a wonderful solution to this is to explain to them, look, we don't need to tell dispatch all this. Tell your coworkers.
I'm trying to write this as a uh, hate to sin, love the sinner kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so, we talked that one thing you brought up was don't tell the dispatcher, tell your partners. That's who needs
Yeah.
to know. Uh, one of my things I thought was a good idea was why not rehearse what you're going to say before and after. Like, I'm going to this call. Here's what I'm going to want to know. And if I don't get that information, I'm going to ask that. And
Yeah.
when I leave the call, uh, what does everybody need to know? The dispatcher or my partners need to know on this kind of call or that kind of call. If you're leaving an accident scene, they probably don't need to know a lot.
Yeah. Well, what does insurance need to know? Or with a domestic or an assault, what does prosecution need to know?
Yeah.
What are
Well, and
what are
keep
the elements of the crime?
keep in mind if you get anything wrong. Now, when I was in 911 for the longest time, every single criminal case, the defense attorney would come in and get that traffic, all the radio traffic.
Yeah.
And of course, we would give it to them as quickly as we could. And then if you say something wrong on the radio, here's another downside to that. If you say something wrong on the radio, like just an innocent mistake, a good defense attorney is going to provide the best defense they can. That's their job.
Hone in on that.
That's
Yeah.
what they're supposed to do. And so they get you on the stand thinking, hold on a second, you said this in your report, but you said this on the radio. And they'll like I said, I don't got no beef with that. That's what they're supposed to do. But if you keep your mouth shut until
Yeah.
it's time to write the
Yeah,
report, if you don't, if you get you because you might find something out in between now and then.
definitely. Definitely. Hadn't thought about that part.
Yeah, and so that kind of just occurred to me of the you have a attorney-client privilege with your brain and your mouth, and they can keep things quiet. You don't have to doesn't have to go flash across here. Doesn't have to come out here, and that's a lesson I had to learn a couple of times the hard way. I want to talk about the consequences a
Yeah.
little bit, and obviously the consequences we've already kind of touched on were your dispatchers losing engagement. Somebody might be trying to get on the radio
Yeah.
and they can't, and it might be they're I'm just going to assume they're having a worse time than I am and stay off and let them get it out. But the other one of the small things I was thinking about is uh, losing that emotional autonomy. Are you really, if you have to tell this dispatcher and your fellow officers everything you did on that call, and you're depending on that, or you're depending on knowing all that information before you get there, when you could just find it out when you get there, are
If
you
it's not
losing?
critical,
Yeah, are you kind of getting overly dependent and losing that emotional intelligence, that autonomy within yourself? Are you kind of giving that up via that crutch? That might seem kind of crazy and when foo-foo. I'm just curious what you think.
there we go. Now I'm unmuted. Yeah, I can see that because I can think of specific officers, no matter the call, they always have to go and do this, and this is their pattern. And I think that kind of goes back to some of the things that we discussed as well. There are multiple facets. You're taking up airspace or airtime where there might be more critical information or critical messaging that needs to get through. You're giving up information or providing information that might wind up biting you in the end. Um, Self-control is kind of a big thing, and not using the radio. That's unless it's an emergency. So for me, I avoid using the radio unless I need to. I'll if I'm not in front of my computer, but I need and I'm checking on, I'll do it on the radio, or I might go on my cell phone and do it. Because it takes a couple minutes for the computer to boot up and get the internets. So if I'm stopping to if I'm pulling over a car, I'm pretty sure I'm going to use the word required. We are required to check in 1060 location, description, plate, that kind of stuff, or plate description. But that's almost the extent of my radio use. If I get assigned something, I'll acknowledge it. But pretty much, unless there's some kind of vital information, ATL came out. They're going through town, driving erratically. Do you have a current location? Because I'm now on the main road, and that's going to tell me whether I should be turning right or left. That's about it. Other than that, I'm getting a phone call. Other than that, I don't even get on the radio to say I'm 24 10/8 or anything like that. That I'm complete, that the call's complete, or that I'm free. I'm doing that on my computer.
Yep.
Because for me, we're busy enough in the region where there's constantly stuff going on. If there's a priority call going on, so in my agency, traffic is highly encouraged. If there's a priority call, I'm probably going to not pull over some traffic for a little bit, because I already know dispatch is shorthanded, and they only have X amount of people. And if there's a shooting going on or some kind of act of violence, I'm just going to be quiet, and I'm just going to wait for things to subside. Now, if I'm on a call, yeah, I'll do what I need to do, but I'm not going to create additional issues or problems or work for dispatch if I don't have to. Now, if someone's going a million miles an hour down a residential street,
Right.
running over dogs and kids, yeah, I have to take action. Absolutely. But if it's within my control, I'm going to tone things down and wait for things to subside before I use any radio waves. But going back to
Yeah,
What
go
was
ahead.
that?
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say along the emotional intelligence or the um, self control part. All of that, it's all conscious. It's all thinking, oh, I can do. No, I'm not going to. I'm not going to go on the radio. Everything is afforded to me through my computer. I have the ability to do everything on my computer if I have to. The only reason I bring something up on the radio is if there's an officer safety issue or a public safety issue. Other than that, it's on the computer, and
Yeah.
that's yeah.
So
And yeah,
if you have an agency that's capable of doing that, why would you not do that? Why
yeah,
would you not do that? If it's not a safety thing, why would you not do that? Now, I
yeah,
don't think we have all those capabilities. All our folks have all those capabilities, but they have a lot of them,
yeah,
and probably a lot of the smaller agencies don't. But we can really manage that radio and really manage ourselves. I think that is I really think that emotional intelligence, that discipline, that's one way we can exercise that. And it might seem like an ancillary issue, but that's one way you can really manage that a little bit and build that up so that we can be more disciplined at work. It's something that I know as a younger officer I could have used. I was blathered on the radio all the time,
yeah,
and we would have those guys that just had to give that post call narrative, and that's what I thought I was supposed to do because everybody else was doing it.
yeah.
And looking back on it, it's just so cringeworthy. I thank God those records get deleted after 3 years if they don't have to go be evidence for something. Because oh man, that would be embarrassing to have that. Because
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
hopefully maybe we can help that. Like just like primary and secondary, where you're basically archiving information. Maybe this can help
yeah,
somebody.
yeah. Well, with that in mind as well, is there a possibility this person that constantly is using the radio in this manner is not aware of what they're doing? Are they
Yeah,
aware? Just like you just said, are they aware? You don't need to do that. Matter of
yeah,
fact, it's kind of discouraged.
yeah, exactly. And that's something that nobody really told me until somebody did. And then it was a little bit heartbreaking because I was like, well, everybody else is doing it. They're like, yeah, but
Yeah, they shouldn't.
he shouldn't be doing that, and you're new, and you can be better than that. And
Yeah.
so I learned real quick early. So maybe that's something that people just don't even know they're doing. So
And I
I
think
think we've
every
covered
area,
it.
every region has at least that one officer
Oh
that
yeah,
everyone knows when that officer gets on the radio, they're going to be on for a while. They're going to take up more time than they need to, and they're going to be providing these status checks constantly, telling dispatch, "Hey, this is what's going on." Yeah, just it's okay. You don't need to do that. Now, dispatch they do their security checks with us if we're on a call for X amount of time,
right.
uh, especially one that the officer safety might be part of it. The extent of what I say, we're code for. Everything's fine. I don't need to. Well, so I got here and the guy started running and then he tripped in this. Yeah. No.
Oh, I love the post or the play by plays. So we've had let's say we have 5, 6, 7 officers out with on one bad guy with a gun.
Yeah.
I don't need to know that you got one at gunpoint.
Yeah.
I don't need to. We don't need to know that because there's like 6 of you out there, and you got one bad guy. You're probably gonna handle it without. That's not helping anybody. What you are doing is taking your mind off what's going on, making everybody else listen to what you're saying on the radio because they don't know what's going on. That kind of thing. It's just inane and unnecessary, but it's kind of unfortunately a culture thing that we've had
Mm-hmm.
to that we haven't ever learned. Now, if you're by yourself
Yeah.
and you're like, hey, this guy's got a knife. I got one at gunpoint.
And
Could be
here's my
pointing guns at
location.
people, trying to shoot them anyway.
That's
But
true. Don't you
another
have an
one,
article about that?
I think there's 2 of them about that. But yeah, but let's say I got one at gunpoint. And I'm by myself. Okay, yeah, that's something you need to say. If there's
Yeah.
maybe even if there's 2 of you, that's probably something you need to say because maybe somebody has some less lethal munitions or something they can come help with. But if you got a half dozen folks out there, we don't need to know that. We know there's a problem. If you went on your call with 6 folks in my jurisdiction, that's already an officer safety thing. You were not sending 6 folks to nothing. I mean, we're
Yeah.
not sending 6 folks to something that's not a public safety or an officer safety thing. So just one of those other examples. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Not that I can think of. I really, though, I really think the whole culture angle on this is huge, because there is an opportunity for some coaching, some mentorship, and to help people understand, okay, this is why we do what we do. This is why we don't do the narration, why we're not reading our report to dispatch. That's why we have Grammarly.
Yes, that's 100% true. Well, Matt, man, I love having you on. I appreciate you so much. Let me be on your podcast once in a while. And I haven't been on one in a while because you've been covering topics that I cannot help with. I'm just listening to them. But whenever I can,
You can still go on them.
I can still get in there and get in the way as much as possible, ask questions. I like to do that, but it's been a little crazy too. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thanks again for coming on.
Oh,
And
my
you're
pleasure.
one of the guys I really appreciate and really respect. And you'll notice that there's nobody on any of these deals that doesn't meet that category. I just don't
Yeah.
interview people that don't have some quality information.
Now, you do have a height requirement, though, right? With these, because
I need to, but I'm always
despite what people may know or think, or not know, but despite what people may think, you are a tall person.
yeah. And the bad thing that comes up with that is every time I go on one of yours, I'm the shortest guy there. You always have somebody bigger than me. You're 6'5". You got Larry Correa, who is he's 7'8" or something.
Steve Fisher.
Steve, Steve. I got a picture of me and
Yeti.
Steve, but I'm just about right with Steve. But yeah, you get all these tall guys on there. It's making me feel bad. But yes, I am almost 6'2". As gravity is hurting me a little bit, but I'm going down a little bit. But yeah, that's always a fun thing to talk about. But yeah, I need to stop that. Oh yeah, Hickok 45. We had that one with him.
Yeah,
He's a head taller than I am.
6'7"?
He's 6'7" or something.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I haven't done one in a while. Maybe he's making me feel bad about my height. I think that's probably it. Yeah, I mean, we need some short guys on there. Can we get like Hearn and who else do we get on there with? Get some small guys on there. Make me feel better.
Well, there's still an episode. Let's see, what was it? It was institutional knowledge. I think that's the next episode I want to do. And it's saying my internet connection is unstable at the moment. Probably because the kid has 12 TVs streaming all the same show right now.
All the same show from different rooms.
But yeah. So when he goes room to room, he can follow his cartoons.
Makes total sense to me.
But yeah, I want to get like Hearn and you and Haggard and Bulky and similar to go do the episode, and Eric to talk about institutional knowledge and how it's, and that kind of goes with what we've talked about with culture, with mentorship, and it's all interrelated.
It really is. Yeah, I'd love to be on that one. So before we go, why don't you tell us a little about yourself and where people can find you?
Well, I can be found in northern Utah somewhere.
But if somebody goes looking for you in Utah, that's probably not a good idea.
It's a nice place.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah. I've never been there, but I'm going. Where can they find you on the internet?
Oh, on the internet. I am on Instagram, on YouTube. YouTube currently does not like me. We have discussions like this on the podcast, and YouTube says that we're violating their terms of service. I don't know if it's because of my background that I'm not interacting with. It's just a sheet. It's not real.
Yeah, it's a picture.
Yeah, clearly. But yeah, YouTube. I'm on YouTube. They just don't like me. They don't like my content. And it's also the content on YouTube, for the most part, the podcasts are very long form, hours of discussion. Yeah. But what they wind up covering is they get in the weeds with so many cool topics. And ultimately, the way the discussions are chosen is whatever gets my attention. I think I want to talk about this. This is cool. We did an episode on 45 Colt. I never thought I'd ever consider 45 Colt as something that's fairly cool. Now that's 454. There's the 45 Colt. Never thought cool something like that would be cool. It is so cool. And so we wound up doing a multi-hour episode just about that one caliber. Yeah, so YouTube, website, primaryandsecondary.com. We have our own forum on there because I know at some point Facebook is going to remove us because we are on Facebook. We have 736 different Facebook groups. Not really.
It's a lot.
Yeah. But yeah,
if you have an interest in law enforcement, firearms, or anything related, you will find a page.
Hunting, sniper stuff, equipment, do it yourself. I even have one where we're talking about, what is it, fine food and something, just because there was a really cool conversation that got me thinking. I'm connected to a lot of really cool people that have neat backgrounds in cooking and food and stuff. Let's get them all together to talk, and I get to learn. And that's kind of
Actually
like what the
don't have
podcasts
that
are.
one. There are 736, aren't there?
Really?
I don't have that one.
I'm going to
That's
add you right
hilarious.
now.
Do that, yes.
But truly, it's a blast. I love doing all this. I love networking, and I love learning, and I love interacting with people that know what the hell they're talking about,
Yeah, and
because I get to benefit.
and folks, don't let the lengthy podcast kind of scare you off, because you can listen to it in your car while you're driving around on
Yeah.
patrol, and there will be rabbit holes, and
Yeah.
they will be interesting, and they will be fun. I've loved when we had Hickok 45 on, because when you did, I should say, but when
We,
and you let me be there, because he got attracted to, it's such a high information bunch of folks there. It's incredible. Every time I'm looking for some information, I go there first. The primary and secondary, the forum, and you will find a podcast that will cover some of the stuff you want. So if you haven't done that yet, folks, go check out primary and secondary. Support that page. And I know y'all know about YouTube's going to do. He's going. It's
oh,
going
yeah.
to. It's going to do it, and Facebook going to do it to us. And here we are, just trying to provide good
Yep.
information. And nothing we say, you won't hear anybody saying stuff that isn't a ridiculous, obvious joke that's not safety related.
Yeah.
That is something that you wouldn't want said in public. You'll never hear that there. It's always something that is about making things better, making things safer,
Yeah.
providing better service, being better stewards
Yeah.
of our jobs and that kind of thing. You'll never ever hear that, but yet they've got these arbitrary rules that they just hate us talking about. They just hate guns. I don't think they love cops, frankly.
Yeah.
And
You
there
blame
are
them?
other. Well, there's some I don't like right now. I can tell you that, but that's pretty much always. But you got to love them. I just don't have to like them, you know.
Yeah.
So always go check out Matt Landfair. Check out primary and secondary folks, and you can find me at Defensive Training Services. I have all my articles and that kind of stuff over there. You can kind of get to most of them. I even got one of them on primary and secondary that I'm particularly proud of.
That's a good one.
And if you guys want to find me on either Police One or American Cop, and I know Eric won't mind me mentioning American Cop, because he's done an interview for Police One for me, and we don't really care about cross posting. We care about getting good information out there, and just like you do. And that's why
Oh,
you
yeah.
give 3 hours of your time, sometimes a couple times a week, sometimes more, and take away from other things that you could be doing, so you can archive this great information. So we just really appreciate you doing that, and appreciate you being on, man.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for letting me come and talk.
I love it.